You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to an episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, huge shout out to our sponsors. The Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. Turn your dream home into a reality with Home Creations, a family-owned and operated builder with over 40 years of trusted experience right here in Oklahoma. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to schedule a showing or visit our website for more details. Home Creations, building homes, shaping futures, strengthening communities. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike and here, host, back with another episode. Today we are on Route 66 in Bethany, Oklahoma, a very familiar area for me. I went to University at Southern Nazarene just down the street. I think we can see it from the room we're in. It's great. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Richard Mills, the Chief Marketing Get my words out. Chief of Marketing and Engagement, Bethany Children's Health Center. Excited to dive into the story. Richard's not from here like me, so it's always fun to have someone on the podcast who was not born and raised here, but also clearly loves Oklahoma as much as I do. But just had a tour of this incredible facility. There's a lot of construction going on around here at the moment. If you've been driving around Bethany or Route 66, you will know this area, and there's a huge facility coming, adding to what is incredibly here already. But before we dive into telling you all about what's coming to this incredible I was going to say hospital. You guys don't like to say it's a hospital. It's a health center. Let's dive into your story, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Born and raised, grew up in Ghana.
I did. It was one of the best places to grow up, I would say. Okay. It was fun. Living on the beach every day was just a joy.
Yeah. Now you're in Oklahoma with lakes everywhere.
Exactly.
It's not the same.
It's not.
I haven't been to Ghana, and for people listening, I would assume likely haven't been to Ghana.
Yeah.
How would you sum it up?
Ghana is your West African version of New York City. That's how I describe it, right?
Okay.
Busy.
Yeah.
Streets are packed. A lot of fun things to do, right? Everyone walking everywhere. Everyone knows everybody. Maybe that's the difference from New York is maybe in New York you don't say hi to everyone, but in Ghana or Accra, you say hi to everyone, right? Walking down the street.
Yeah.
And I just remember days in Ghana where I would spend hours at the beach playing soccer and meeting with friends. growing up with my dad and playing soccer on the beach, and just, man, it was, I remember it very vividly. It's fun.
Yeah.
Good time.
Soccer is probably the national sport, like in most countries other than America.
Yeah.
Soccer is the way to go.
It is the sport.
Right.
I remember the World Cup in South Africa. That was the best World Cup that Ghana ever played in, and we got to the quarterfinals. And if you're a soccer fan and you remember this, we played Uruguay, and Luis Suarez hits the ball out of the net with his hand just as we're scoring to end the game. He gets a red card, and he's sent off, and then we miss the penalty and go on to lose a game or a match where we clearly should have won that and been the first African country in the semifinals ever at the World Cup. So we still don't like Luis Suarez for that.
No one likes Luis Suarez either, right? It's the Liverpool Luis Suarez was at for a long time, right?
He was good. He was good at Liverpool.
We're mutual Man United fans, so we all definitely hate every Liverpool player
For
too.
sure.
We could talk about football for a long time, real football, for people listening.
All right.
Growing up in Ghana, playing soccer, remembering all, a lot of kind of things going on at the city. It's a lot of vibrant lives going on.
Right.
Why do you want to come to here? Why do you want to come to America?
There were a couple of reasons. The first one was my dad worked at the University of Oklahoma, and my dad and my mom actually, when they met in Ghana, they moved over to Chicago to go to college. They both went to Wheaton College in Illinois. And once they got married in Illinois, they decided to go back to Ghana. For what reason, I don't know why, but they went back. And so that was always a plan to return to the United States. And so that was one of the reasons why I was obviously going to move back. But my dad moved here, started working for the University of Oklahoma. And so naturally, we're going to move to Oklahoma as well. But the second reason was I was born with a disorder called sickle cell. And so when you live with sickle cell in a West African country where malaria is prevalent, ideally, you want to get out of an environment where malaria is so rampant, right? And so one of my goals and my parents' goals was to move out of Ghana and go to the United States where, one, the medical care was better, but also there was very little chance that you'd get malaria, which was really the disease or the thing that got sickle cell patients in the hospital the most is, man, you already have sickle cell and then you get malaria in Ghana. It's just really not ideal to do that. And so medical reasons, but also my dad was working at the University of Oklahoma, so it made sense.
What's the reason Dad goes to work at the University of Oklahoma?
My dad just really wanted to live in the United States, and that's why I made the reference of why did they move back after they got married in Illinois. Is he's someone who always had eyes on the United States, and he knew people who worked at the university, and so he made that connection and said, hey, I want to come there because I know I'm going to be settled, because I know people who are going to help me get settled in Oklahoma. And so even though it may not have been his direct favorite job, it was a place where he could land his feet. So he was doing a lot of DHS work for the University of Oklahoma for a long time, many, many years. He was the guy who would go to work at OU, come back home at night, and then at 6 p.m. go back to work doing something else. He was your typical version of living the American dream, which really is not a dream to me because that's too much work, right? Yeah. But he wanted his family to have a better life and a better situation. So Oklahoma wasn't necessarily his target, but because he knew people here, it made sense.
Yeah. Are you more like your mom or your dad?
I'm an extrovert like my dad. I am very competitive and driven like my mom. My mom is a judge in Ghana. She still lives in Ghana, by the way.
Really?
She returned to Ghana to serve as a high court judge in Ghana because that was her dream. She wanted to become an attorney and become a judge and do it in Ghana, and she did it. And so she's now retired and living her best life.
Amazing. That's amazing. I love that. You got the perfect blend, right? Outgoing and hardworking.
Yeah, definitely.
People watching, if you're not watching, Ricky dresses very well. He's got a fly suit on today,
Thank
matching
you.
J's, which is great. Do you come from a big family?
No, very, very small family. I have one sister.
Okay.
My sister is actually an attorney in Ghana right now. So she went to the University of Oklahoma like I did, and then returned to Ghana to go to law school, and then now is a practicing attorney in Ghana. So she's different from me in the sense that she always wanted to go back to Ghana and live, where I am more of a no. I want to live in Oklahoma, and I'll come visit once a while. So no, I didn't grow up with a big family, and I have a big extended family, right? My grandparents and cousins and all that living in Ghana. Great family growing up, but it wasn't a big family, a nuclear family necessarily, but a lot of great family, extended family. So
yeah. So you remember coming here from Ghana?
yes.
What's your earliest memories of Oklahoma?
Oh man, so I'll tell you this: I visited Oklahoma a few times because my dad was living here. My dad was living here alone. My sister and I lived with my mom because my dad wanted to make sure that when we came to America, that we're coming at the right time. And so we would come visit him for Christmas breaks and things like that to go back home. But then one day he said, you know what, it's time for you guys to move here. And my mom and sister was like, oh, okay, let's do it in like December. It makes sense to come at Christmas. And I said, no, I'm going right now. So I literally packed my bags, hopped on a plane by myself.
At 11 years old?
Yes. I remember the plane stopping in the Netherlands for to change planes, right? Transit, and I got another plane and went straight to Dallas. And my dad picked me up in Dallas. So I was ready to move to the United States. I was ready to come to Oklahoma. My first impression of Oklahoma, like I didn't think Oklahoma was different than other states. Like I thought every state was the same. And so the first time I remember coming to Oklahoma it was a Christmas and there was snow and it was like the perfect this is what the United States is about. Snow, McDonald's, everything I saw on TV growing up in Ghana, that's exactly what I saw in Oklahoma. So I never really had a view that it was different from other states. It's the United States. It's cool. And then it was when I started to grow up, I was like, oh, it's different. I started visiting other states and I said, oh, okay, Oklahoma is a little different, but it feels like home. It's like the place where I have a lot of good memories as well because it was the second place I lived. I grew up, I went to college, high school, college, and met a lot of my friends, met my wife at the University of Oklahoma. So it's home, honestly. Yeah.
When you come over here as a young kid, growing up playing football back home, do you dive into sports here and try and learn how to play baseball and American football here, or do you stick to soccer?
No, I actually stuck to soccer in high school, and it wasn't very long playing soccer when I realized just not the sports guy, because for someone who has sickle cell, one of the things that I had to prevent myself from doing is exerting myself too much. So one of the things that happens to you when you have sickle cell is your body can't direct oxygen to your organs as quickly as a regular person would. So one of the things is the doctors will always say is be careful when you're playing sports, because if you notice you're getting too tired, you need to take a break. It's like, it's sports. Why am I going to sit and take a break? Especially soccer. Right. No timeouts in soccer. So I didn't play soccer very long, and really shifted my attention to what do I want to do as in my career. Is I knew what I loved, and I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to chase that dream of just being in marketing and being in PR and figuring out what I love doing. And that's where I shifted my attention to say, okay, let's go get this thing. Yeah.
What time of your life is that moment? Is that when you're still in high school?
That's senior year in high school.
Okay.
Senior year. So I stopped playing soccer my junior year. And I said, all right, we're going to go to the University of Oklahoma and we're going to work as hard as we can to figure this thing out and make something out of the opportunity to be in the United States, because not everyone gets that opportunity. And when growing up in Ghana, a lot of your friends and everyone in Ghana wants to go somewhere. They want to go to the UK, right? They want to go to the States. And I had this opportunity and I said, well, I'm going to make the most out of it. So
yeah.
What
draws you to want to go into marketing and PR?
You know, I always loved the idea of almost representing something, whether it was an organization, a sports team, being able to say, I represent this organization and I can speak on behalf of them, right? I'm going to make that organization as successful as possible. And part of it was figuring out what the direction of career I wanted to go into. And I knew I wanted to go into nonprofit because I always found that with nonprofits, the mission that they had was always something that I connected with, right? And so in college, once I got about to my junior year in college, sophomore, junior year, I started applying to internships, right? I had an internship with Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Loved it. Basketball communications. I loved basketball. I was a big Lakers fan growing up in Ghana, right? So when you don't grow up in the United States, you have the ability to pick any team to support, right? It's a huge Kobe and Shaq fan, and I just thought the NBA was my lane. I wanted to go in there. So I had an internship with the Thunder. I did an internship with Procter & Gamble. I did an internship with Devon Energy in oil and gas. And so I really dabbled in a lot of different areas to try to figure out what I loved. And what I noticed was that, man, I loved the medical field. Just because growing up I spent so much time in the hospital, I just connected with organizations that were caring for children, and making sure that they had the potential to just maximize, whatever future that they had. And so I kept really connecting with nonprofits. And so after college, my first job was with Orange Leaf Frozen Yogurt, which was a business, a great first job. And then after that, I said, okay, I want to go into nonprofit. And I started looking around, and I learned about Bethany Children's, and really that's how I got connected here. And I knew it was home as soon as I started working here. I knew it was the place for me. Yeah.
Super fortunate to have that. A lot of people don't get that.
Yeah, no, it is true. You don't get that most places, but really knowing the space you want to go into, for me, is important because it allows you to really hone in and focus on that goal that you have. Mm-hmm. And so not just knowing that you want to be in marketing, but knowing the space that you want to go in. Is it nonprofit? Is it sports? Yeah. Is it for an organization? And I kind of knew exactly. I was good at all of it, right? Basketball communications was fun. I got to meet all my favorite NBA players. But, man, doing something meaningful is completely different. And, man, it doesn't even feel like work sometimes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and it makes me think of that side of your mom that's like, I want to go serve, I want to go be a lawyer, I want to go back home. Like that's part of your DNA, and that's in you to serve, right? And obviously you tied it into your personal experiences and being here and the marketing side and representing an organization that truly changes lives here.
I think that's a great point. I think when you grow up in a place like Ghana, right? Ghana is just known as a place where we serve everyone. It's people ask me all the time if I'm different, if I don't look like all the Ghanaians and I visit Ghana, how am I going to be treated? And I said, usually when we get visitors in Ghana, they're treated like kings and queens because that is just the nature of who we are, is to serve. Like, you don't go into someone's home in Ghana and not feel like you were welcomed or you at a party, right? They're feeding you, they're cooking for you. That is just what we do in Ghana. And so really growing up, service and serving others is like second nature, right? And so seeing my mom do it, seeing everyone around me just live that way, just felt like, man, that's what I want to do when I grow up, is go serve somewhere. And it worked out. So.
What do you miss from home?
The food. Oh my God, the food is like, I have dreams about Ghanaian food. It's like I wake up thinking, man, I just want to take a $2,000 trip back to Ghana for a day and eat some food and come back, right? But that's it. It's really the food and the people. I think one of the things we take for granted is when you go to Ghana, it's just so relaxed. There's not this feeling of everyone just like busy trying to get stuff done like we have in the United States, right? Everyone is chill. You can sit down and have a chat with someone for 5 minutes, right? Go down the street, talk to the guy on the boat trying to go catch some fish in the ocean. Like, it's just a feeling of no rush. It's like everything is just simple, fun. They don't need much to survive, right? They're not looking for their next big break here. Everyone is just content. And I think I miss that. I love the feeling of chasing something and the competitive nature that I have. But I also think there's something about just relaxing and meeting people, having a chat with someone, getting to know someone, which Ghanaians do a really good job at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere locally that you can replicate that food, or is it you have to go home, or do you cook it yourself?
Exactly. You know, the thing about living in Oklahoma is like we have a good Ghanaian community in Oklahoma. So if I really wanted Ghanaian food, I could make a call. I could send someone a text and someone will make the meal. But there's something about going to Ghana and just having a meal in Ghana that you just can't replicate anywhere else. But yes, there's a good Ghanaian community here and we have a lot of functions where you're guaranteed, like you go to a function, a party that a Ghanaian is hosting in Oklahoma, you're going to get some good food. So yeah.
Any specific dishes that you miss, that you can explain for us?
Oh my God! Obviously, the most popular dish that people who are not even Ghanaian would know is called jollof rice. So jollof rice is a stew base, tomato stew base, where the rice is cooked as the stew is cooking as well. So you get this orange, really bright red rice, and you can eat it with whatever protein of your choice, right? Chicken, beef, whatever else. But there's this thing in West Africa where Ghanaians and Nigerians and all the West African countries battle to figure out who has the best jollof rice. And I even see commercials now. There's a credit card commercial with celebrities sitting at a table now on TV trying to figure out who has the best jollof rice, right? And they're talking about unity and how we all come together to make the best jollof rice. And I'm like, no, Ghanaian jollof rice is the best jollof rice. There's no chance I'm eating Nigerian jollof. No, Ghanaian jollof is the best. So that's the popular meal that everyone would know if they heard it, or see it.
Try some.
Yeah.
So you mentioned kind of feeling that when you came here, it just felt like home, felt like this is the right place for you to be. You wanted to find a place that was a non-profit and that you were serving, that really kind of spoke to you. This place has been here 126 years.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you get here. Who introduces you to Bethany Children's, and then that whole kind of transformation about when you get here and what the state of the business is like, this place is like, the amount of kids it's serving, and just to give people a context of where where it is today as well.
Yeah. So, I always, when I tell my story, I say everything that has happened in my life happened at the exact right time for me to be in this position right now, serving as chief of marketing for this incredible organization. I remember applying for a communications specialist job in 2015, and I was in Florida visiting one of the parks at the time, and I got a call from the CEO at the time, Albert Gray, and it was unusual. Like, you don't apply for a job and the CEO calls you, right? And so I get a call from Albert, and he's like, I looked at your resume. You need to come in and talk to me. And I was like, say less. I'm coming in. So I came in, had a conversation with Albert, and immediately we clicked. Like, he said, I don't think that job that you applied for is available because they hired someone else, but I'm going to hire you anyway. And you're going to come in, and every morning we're going to sit down and talk about my vision, and you're going to help me brainstorm different things. So I came in, and Albert and I would meet at 8 a.m. every day. He would tell me what his vision was, what he was thinking at 2 a.m. the night before. We'll write all these things down. We actually accomplished a lot of the things that he wanted to do. He wanted to write a children's book, and we wrote one. We actually have one of those books in our lobbies currently, right? And so I did that for a little bit, and then started to take on the social media and really creating the content for the hospital. I kind of transitioned from working directly with Albert to the communications and marketing team, and started creating the content, really got our social media up to speed to where it is today. And then, man, just really was grinding at that role for a while. And then in 2018, 2019, I actually got a call from one of my mentors who was working at Love's at the time. And we had a conversation. She's like, you need to come work with me at Love's. And I actually took that job. Went to work for Love's, and I learned so much at Love's in a year and a half. And then the pandemic happened. And as soon as the pandemic happened, Albert Gray, CEO, called me back and said, all right, it's time for you to come back. You went and got your experience from Love's. It's time for you to come home. And I said, say less, I'm coming back. And so in 2021, I returned and became the director of corporate communications. And I've been building that team up for the last 5 years. I think we have one of the best marketing teams in Oklahoma right now. And that's just the reason why we do so well is because of the stories that we have at Bethany, right? They're stories of hope. They're families and children who don't get this care anywhere else. We're the only inpatient pediatric rehab facility in the state of Oklahoma. And so really, we don't exist. A lot of these families and children don't have a place to go to recover from a lot of the illnesses and the injuries that they face. And so really, giving them a voice is really what excites me is, man, can we show people, the donors, the people who give to this nonprofit, can we show them that the money and the time and the prayers and the commitment that they're given to this facility is going to something that's bigger than any of us, right? We have a great history that I'm sure we'll talk about. But the reason we're still here is because we're doing things and serving families and patients in ways that a lot of facilities aren't doing. And that's the joy of Bethany Children's. It's an exciting place. It's a place of joy. It's a place of hope. It's a place of growth, as you can see outside, right? And so really we want to keep the history, the Christian principles on which we're founded, and just the mission. We want to sustain that mission for many years to come.
Yeah. Having, that time with Albert at 8 a.m. every day, you can't imagine the wisdom and the things you've learned during that time. And I can't imagine how hard it was for you to actually tell him, hey, I'm taking a job to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it was. We still laugh about it today because I remember that day going into his office and telling him. I think as soon as I sat down in his office, he knew it. He said, "You're leaving, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "I'm going to Love's," and immediately Albert started to figure out what he can do to change my mind. He's like, "What do you need? What can we do for you to stay?" And in that moment, he could have offered me anything else and I would have still left, because it was time for me to go learn something else. And I felt that there was something out there for me to go figure out, because I still had things to learn. I was doing a great work here, right? I was doing a great job at my current role, but I felt like there was something out there. And going back and reconnecting with my mentor, who I had at Devon Energy when I worked there, and really getting to learn about the ins and out of a corporate facility like Love's, like big company. Man, in a year and a half, I learned more than I had ever learned in my career. And so going there and coming back made me a better person, made me a better employee, helped me serve Bethany Children's more than I would have ever been able to serve them if I didn't make that move. So we laugh about it now, but Albert would tell you it was the best move. He would agree with me, saying it was a good career move to go there for even the short amount of time that I did.
Yeah. Things work out, right? They work out when they're supposed to, and you're right. Like when you're, there's so many quotes out there about working on ourselves to take care of others, but you got to focus on yourself first to be able to serve others. And the better you are doing the things that you do means that the more impact you have. And if that's going to a different job or going to a huge corporate company like Love's and learning from them, and then clearly he kept his eye on you.
I can't tell you how many times I had lunch with Albert when I worked at Love's. I said, Albert, we are having lunch more than I did when I actually worked with you. Yeah. Like, what's going on here, right? And so Albert and I will have lunch once or twice a week when I worked at Love's. We stayed in touch, and he was one of those people. He's just a good guy. He's like a genuine person. And if you get Albert, you know that he has a lot of love in his heart for just people, right? And so he has impacted my life in more ways than he would ever know. And yeah, I definitely appreciate him for all of that.
You spoke about the 126 years and the history and the Christian principles of this place, and we just finished a tour. Thank you for giving me a tour, because I have so much more context of this place now, and I hope everyone with the opportunity to get a tour takes it, because you need to see this place. Dive into the history, the original chapel, and the kind of founding story, and that leads into where we are today.
Man, the history of Bethany Children's is probably my favorite story to tell, right? So, Maddie Mallory, our founder, was born in 1865. She was born in Ottawa, Kansas. And Ottawa, Kansas was a very reform-minded community. If you ask me today if anywhere in Kansas is reform-minded, I probably would say no, but at that time, she grew up in a place where the people of Ottawa, Kansas believed in education, right? Believed in taking care of children, caring for the people who were displaced. And so she really grew up in that age where she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She knew her life mission was to care for children and people who just needed help. So she went to Baker University, graduated in 1889, spent a couple of years training and teaching in a classroom, and then actually in 1892, right, she became the principal of Dawes Academy in Indian Territory. And Dawes Academy was a school for the descendants of freed slaves. And so she was already, again, doing the work that she always knew she wanted to do. She spent 5 years doing that work as a principal of Dawes Academy. And Dawes Academy, in today's world, will be located in Ardmore, Oklahoma, for context. She did that for 5 years and then accepted a position as the superintendent of a missionary in Winnipeg, Canada. And so as she was taking a train up north, when, the train stopped in Oklahoma City, and Maddie felt the need to start a ministry in Oklahoma City. So she returned a year later in 1889 and started the Oklahoma Orphanage. Or 1898, sorry. Started the Oklahoma Orphanage. The orphanage moved a few places here and there over the years, and then finally in 1909, she moved the orphans to Bethany, when Bethany had nothing here, right? But the reason for the move to Bethany is because Maddie Mallory was looking for an environment where she says she could raise the kids in away from the noise, away from the city. She was looking for a safe environment for them. So moved to Bethany, built the Oklahoma Orphanage, and currently if you go to our Donald W. Reynolds building, there's a chapel where the employees actually used their hard-earned money to fund the building of that chapel. And that chapel sits exactly where the orphanage was when Maddie built it in 1909. And so over the years, the facility really changed from an orphanage to a convalescent home. I mean, we were serving kids who had polio. We always stepped into the gap where there was a need. And that's what Bethany Children's has always been about, is stepping into the gap and serving where there weren't the resources that were needed at that time. And so things changed over the years, but the big change happened in 1977 when Carol and Albert Gray, a brother and sister team, came over and took over, right? Albert was brought in to close the facility down, and he and his sister Carol decided, no, we want to keep this place going. Right, so they put money into it. They got their parents to help. They paid the staff more money just to keep it afloat. And then Albert's big break came in '95, where he applied for a grant from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. And at the time, I actually had an opportunity to chat with the guy who actually received that application last fall. His name is Don Prey. Don Prey is in his 90s now, right? And I sat in his house and I had a conversation because I was interested. I was like, please tell me how Albert got this grant because at the time the foundation was not giving money to organizations outside of Tulsa. And so he says he got this grant application, and he said the description of what they were doing to serve children with complex medical needs was so impactful, but also the description of where the kids were living and the conditions they were living in, he couldn't imagine that facility was still opened. And so he took a trip down to Bethany with the team, the foundation team, at the Reynolds Foundation, and they came down and saw it for themselves. And they visited with Albert and Carol, looked at the building, looked at the condition of the building at the time. And he said, Don Prey said he went back and he submitted the grant application to the team and wrote it in all caps because he didn't want them to miss it. He wanted it to stand out so much that he made sure that every single word was written in all caps. And Albert Gray got that $9.7 million grant, and that's how this started. They rebuilt the Donald W. Reynolds complex, which now serves our largest population, which is our complex care unit, which holds 100 patients. And these are patients who present with complex health conditions and need 24-hour medical services, right? Always full. It's a unit that's always full. The average length of stay in that unit is 2 to 3 years. And so really that history and the transition to Albert and Carol really started this Bethany Children's story that you and I know today.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? And then the interviewer in me is just like giddy that you get to go and sit with this guy, right? Who is,
Incredible.
you know, I mean, he was, if it wasn't for him, if he'd just missed it or hadn't come down here, like, you wouldn't be here today.
No,
this
we
place
wouldn't.
be here.
We wouldn't.
Maybe not. You know, it's such a huge grant, $9+ million. You know, that has this now 100-bed facility.
Yeah. And that's why we named the complex after the foundation. It's the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. We named the building after them because it was such an impactful start to who we are today. I don't know if we'll be here today without that grant. And Albert and Carol were so strong in their faith and confident that God will provide, which is exactly what Maddie had done all those years, is, hey, it doesn't matter how we get it. We know God will provide. And they've lived with that same mentality since they took over in 1977. And you can see it.
And you have kids from all over that come and stay here and have obviously complex medical issues, but it's not, you know, it's not just like your traditional hospital, right? There's classrooms, there's things to do. There's, you know, it's when you think of a poor kid that's going to spend 2 to 3 years somewhere, I mean, it's amazing you guys have a classroom to break up their routine, right? And, you know, all the other things that you have, but it's true value.
Yeah, it is. I think one of the things that people truly don't understand until they come take a tour is this is not just a hospital, man. It is a community. It is a facility where we're thinking about every single part of the family, how we can serve mom, dad, brother, sister. And so when you think about just the time it takes if you're in the complex care unit, the time it takes to even recover and have a chance to go home, I mean, we have to provide those services so that they stay on track, whether it's with school, right? So that's why we have classrooms. Whether it's just experiencing the same things they would if they weren't here. So we have activities like prom and a storybook contest, and we celebrate Christmas, and we do all the things they would experience if they weren't here. They have jobs, right? They work during the day to make money. And so we're ensuring that while they're here recovering, they know that we're looking for opportunities to maximize their potential. And whatever that potential is, we know they're going to maximize it.
Yeah. And, you know, not to mention, you talk about schools, and obviously Bethany Schools is right across the street. I know you guys have a partnership with them as far as curriculum and all the things that, you know, the kids need to learn and do. And, you know, when you walk around here, and we talked about it too, it's like some of the, you know, people who don't visit this place would think, well, why do these kids need to go to school? Well, there's so many things and benefits from you know, obviously normal, quote, normal kids who are born and don't have any health issues go to school. We all know why. But when you're talking about someone who's, you know, really needs 24-hour care, sometimes people neglect the school side of it because there's so much care to be taken versus saying, no, like there's education here, like there are cognitive things that we can do. Let's go give these kids an experience, right? Whether it's doing a science thing or, there's so many ways to create, stimulate the brain. And I mean, I'm not a scientist or a nurse or the other things, but I've seen it from my own eyes today, and it makes total sense, and I totally get it.
Yeah, and I think the first time it hit me when I started working here, and it clicked, and I said, wow, we provide all these services. And it took me back to being a kid, growing up with sickle cell, and I remember spending 6 months, this was my longest stay in a hospital in Ghana. And I remember when I was finally better to go back to school, they had to hold me back a year because I wasn't doing anything, laying in the bed in the hospital. And so thinking about how we can keep kids on track, it's like, man, you're not experiencing school, but it's fine. Mm-hmm. Everything is going to be fine. We're going to make sure that you stay on track. That alone gives parents just the peace of mind. Because when your child is in the hospital, I mean, your mind goes to what's going to happen with school. Like, they missed out on prom. I remember one of our patients, Danielle Robinson, was here in 2017, and one of the first things her mom said was, man, she's going to miss her prom. And we said, no, she's not. She's not missing her prom because there's a prom here. And we have pictures of Danielle just experiencing prom and just the excitement and the joy that she had. She probably remembers this prom more than she would remember her school prom. It's because of how the extent we go to make that so memorable, with celebrity guests and MCs and really calling them individually into prom. I mean, all those things make a huge difference. So we go above and beyond to just ensure that it's not just the medical care. We're great at that, but we're great at a lot of other things too.
And also you go above and beyond, not just while they're here, but while they're transitioning out, right? Like we have an incredible facility downstairs with a bus and a house and a store, and like it's a set, right? It's a set to kind of emulate what is the outside world looks like.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the experience that a lot of people don't think about is when you're ready to go home. It is difficult to just get yourself back into the community, right? If you haven't experienced what it's like to go to a restaurant in a wheelchair, right? What is it like to get on a school bus when maybe you have to be in a wheelchair for a few more months, right? What is it like to just experience what it's like to wheel your chair into a restaurant and then transfer yourself into the booth? And so if you go downstairs to our Adapted Recreation and Fine Arts Center, like you said, we've thought about everything. There's a bus, there's a smart home in there, there's a store, there is a restaurant. We've thought about all these things to just give kids and families that experience of what it would be like to get back into the community. And it's also just a fun environment where you can go and just see kids' faces when they walk into that room and see how lively it is, how different it is than any other place they've been. And it's just, we're thinking about how are you going to maximize your potential when you go out of here? You go back into the community, and I think that's important for our families.
Yeah, because not just only like to understand like how life is in a wheelchair, right? Or going to restaurants, or going to the store, or going to a house. And you mentioned a smart home and being fully adaptive to, people and kids in wheelchairs, but also the mental side of it too, right? Going out back into the world after being here and knowing that you've got people here and everyone's going to support you. Or going out into the world and seeing someone you've never seen before, right? And that side of it too. It's I'm sure it really makes a difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And I think that's what our families enjoy the most. Yeah. Most is that we've thought about their stay, but also leaving the hospital. What's next after your stay at the hospital? Because usually you don't think about that, right? You go to the hospital, you get better, and they're like, see you later. Go figure it out. But we help parents and families and patients through that entire process.
Yeah, you remember, the names of the families, right? Their siblings, not just the patient. The patient's not just a number. And also talk about like the outside, like you guys have owned some of the buildings out around the hospital. You've got, kids who might age out that are now going into housing. That's, so it's not just continuing to care for them while they're here. there is a continuous relationship built with people who come through here.
Yeah, one of the things that our CEO, Nico Gomez, really cares about is, man, how are we thinking about what life is like for our patients, even those who age out, right? Those who are independent. We have kids who are independent, like they live on their own, but is there affordable housing, right? Are there houses that are adapted to their needs? We're thinking about all those things. So one of the projects we started late last year was this housing project where we took one of our former patients, Dwayne, who is in a wheelchair, but he lives on his own. He drives himself everywhere, right? He's living the life like a normal, typical developing kid. And it's like, wow, are there things that were made to make your life easier? And he would tell you the story. It's like, no, even my apartment, it's not easy to get into and navigate in a wheelchair. And so one of the things Nico started doing in collaboration with Bison Homes is to build this adapted home for Dwayne, right? And Dwayne has been part of the process, ensuring that he's telling the builders exactly what he needs and how things should work in the home. And, Nico's vision is that if this works, which it's going to work, we're going to be able to replicate it for other people, people like Dwayne in the future, to have a place where they have affordable housing, but a house that was created for them in mind. And so like you said, we're thinking about a lot of different things that you don't necessarily think of when you leave the hospital. And I think Dwayne, especially when it comes to housing, is our perfect example of that process, and what our founder and our CEO and our board, everyone is on the same page when it comes to those things. Is we're going to make those things happen for our patients.
I kind of said this backwards too, but also you guys have programs to prevent people having accidents to show up here, right? Like it's amazing you have this facility for when accidents happen and things happen and life happens to these kids, but also there's an education side of it that you have with schools and counties and all over that, seatbelt safety and ATVs and wearing head protection, like helmets. Like, we remember this as a kid, right? Like, go ride your bike, wear your helmet. And you're like, I don't want to wear my helmet. It's not cool. What serious injuries can happen. And you've heard all those stories, but it's, tell me a little bit about kind of those programs that you have that are going out into schools and educating parents and kids on things that, that you should hopefully never see them again.
I think people find it funny when we say, oh yeah, we're in the business of preventing the same injuries that keep us in business. So like, why would you do that? Because that's not the point, right? The point is we want our mission is that every child's potential is maximized. And if that potential is going to be maximized by preventing an injury that will keep them in the hospital for whether a few weeks or months to years, that's our job as well. And so, we have programs like Safe Kids Oklahoma, where we're ensuring car seat safety, right? We're in the communities ensuring that people are buckling up the right way, ensuring that kids are safe in cars. We also work with Healthy Schools Oklahoma, where we're in all the schools, making sure that those kids know the right way to take care of themselves, with the healthy way to take care of themselves, and preventing a lot of the diseases and things that we see in the hospitals. ATV safety, right? That's a huge part of what we do, is encouraging kids to simply wear a helmet. It can be that simple, right? We see a lot of traumatic brain injuries here at Bethany Children's. We treat a lot of kids for that. And if you look at the stats, it shows simply wearing a helmet can drastically reduce the injury caused when you flip over in an ATV, right, or get in an accident. And so those are the things we're doing. We have a former patient who was in an ATV accident, who actually is now working on the team, telling kids his story about having an ATV accident, coming here, recovering, and now he's in the business of supporting us in that way, going to schools and telling kids, wear your helmet, because this is my story, but I want to help you prevent. So we're thinking about everything, prevention, but also just making sure that if you end up here, you're going to get the best care. So it's part of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point too, you give an amazing pool downstairs that has a floor that moves and raises, and people have probably seen it on TV or Instagram or whatever it is. Like it's for rehabilitation. But you mentioned there's only 3 of those in the state. You got one of them here, and the Thunder has the other one. So.
Exactly. Right. If you think about what it's being used for, right?
Yeah.
It's like, man, the Thunder have one because they know the benefits of it for the players. I mean, the Thunder look good right now. I mean, they're looking like an NBA Finals team. I wonder if it's because of the pool, but it is one of the things about Bethany Children's is we're going to figure out a way to find an equipment or something that a child, even if it's just one child who needs it, we're going to figure it out, right? If one child, we need this one equipment, $1 million equipment for this one child, we'll figure it out because that child matters as well. So that pool really allows all our patients, whether they're in a wheelchair or they can get in the pool themselves, to really experience aquatic therapy because it is a big part of the recovery. And if you look at the recovery, the stats, and it shows that really that specific therapy, because of what you're able to do in the water, it really enhances that recovery. And so it's been a huge part of what we do and the therapy we provide for our patients.
Yeah. Diving into the construction that surrounds this building and the growth plan. I mean, you have almost 1,000 employees. This place is, there's clearly a growth mindset from day one here to help as many people as possible. Tell me about the growth expansion and how excited you are about that, but also kind of educating people listening on why is there a need? Why are we expanding? Why are we going to hopefully have a giant caterpillar on the side of this building?
Yeah, that's the fun part. One of the areas or our service lines is our outpatient services. A lot of people don't think about Bethany Children's as an outpatient facility, but we have that service. We have outpatient therapy where patients can come get therapy once a week, twice a week, for as long as they need it. But we also have a general pediatrics side as well, where anyone can bring their child just for a checkup, see your pediatrician, your annual checkup with the doctor, right? Make sure you're doing well. So we have that side of it where we're seeing tremendous growth. I think in 2024, our clinic saw about 11,000 visits. And the therapy side saw close to 14,000 visits. So if you're looking at that, I mean, close 25,000 to 30,000 visits a year on one floor of this building, not ideal, right? And so over time, we've known that the growth of outpatient means they probably need their own space. And so the visionary that Nico is, our CEO, he's like, well, we're going to build an outpatient center of excellence where therapy is going to have their own floor. The clinic is going to have their own floor. Behavioral health is going to have their own floor. And so we started putting plans together. And one of our donors introduced us to Storyland Studios out of California. And they're former Disney Imagineers who go around the world building theme parks for nonprofits, things like that. And they said, you're not building a box out there. There's no way. You're too close to the street. You're too close to Route 66 to just build a box. We have to make this an inviting environment, an inviting building that people even just driving by want to stop and just see it. Mm-hmm. And so they came up with this concept, right, of a 200,000 square foot, 178 million, 4-story tower that will be anchored by a caterpillar. And so the story is that a lot of our patients go through this process of this journey of transformation, right? They start as a caterpillar, and then by the end of their treatment, they're able to soar into the community and become butterflies, right? It's like that process of slowly finding your wings and going into the community and really maximizing your potential. So we've started construction. If you drive by Bethany Children's, if you're on 39th Expressway or Route 66, the Mother Road, you see construction right across from Southern Nazarene University. And this is going to be a landmark, the next landmark on Route 66, right? You won't be able to drive by and not stop and want to take your Instagram moment when this building is complete, which is set to complete early 2027. The real reason why we're building this is because there is a need, right? We do excellent work when it comes to our inpatient services, but now the focus needs to shift as well to serving our outpatient families. They need the same care. Just because you're not in the hospital 24/7 doesn't mean you don't deserve the excellent care that we provide. And so this building will allow us to really expand those services. I mean, 30,000 visits a year requires you to have your own building. And so this building is going to be able to serve that population and that community. But the other thing is going to allow us to continue to expand is we have these specialists. We have the only physiatrist in the state of Oklahoma. We have a neurologist. We have all these specialists that we have on board now. And so we're seeing more patients from across the state and across the country. And so even being able to expand those services is definitely essential. So we're excited about it.
What are you most excited about?
One, I think ever since I started working here in 2015, you see this potential of Bethany becoming just a leader, not just in Oklahoma, but nationwide. It's like the marketing me and the competitive nature I have wants this place to be the best ever, the best place for kids in the entire country. And now you can kind of see like, oh, we're actually moving in that direction now. Now you can't say Bethany Children's without someone knowing what it is. When I started here, you could say the Children's Center and someone would be like, I've never heard of this place, right? People would drive by all the time and not know this place. But because of the work we do and the mission that we have, I think it's important that we continue to grow and for people to continue to see the impact that we're having across Oklahoma and across the country. So I'm excited to serve more kids, but just the drive and the competitive nature in me just wants to see it complete and say, Bethany is growing.
Yeah.
Like this small orphanage that started in 1898 has become this leader in pediatric care. And to me, internally, like that makes me so excited to think about.
Yeah.
It's like we are now a recognized facility, as we should be, because the work that we're doing is not done anywhere else, not done many places, and we do it really, really well.
Yeah, this is a campus now, right?
Yeah,
it's not
it
just
is.
a little, like you said, like a little orphanage that started out. It's grown into this, nationally recognized facility that people are coming in from all over to, not just Oklahoma. How can people get involved? I know you guys have events coming up, not just the prom for the kids, but you have conferences and other events that people can tie into and learn, but also add value to this place as well.
Yeah, and a couple of ways. One, we're a nonprofit. We rely on donations from the public, so that's always our number one. Is if you can come alongside our mission and support us in that way, we'll definitely appreciate it. We're building a $178 million facility out there, so we definitely are relying on our generous donors in the community and organizations to support us. The other way is through our volunteer services. Right, people can sign up to become a volunteer and rock babies, spend time with patients, do the things that maybe our nurses don't have the time to always do because they're focused on other things. So even something as simple as coming to read to a kid or watching a movie with a kid, we rely on volunteers to do that. The other thing is we have a lot of events for the community, right? One of the next things we're hosting is our community luncheon. We have one of these, we have 4 of these a year where anyone can come join us for a complimentary lunch, learn about the hospital, and take a tour. And that's what we want. We want more people in here, so we're not even charging for that, right? So that's coming up on March 26th. And then on March 29th, we have a CP conference. So the CP conference is for families and children with cerebral palsy who just need a community to learn from and learn from some experts about how they can continue to grow and really maximize their potential. So that conference is always sold out, and this is our 3rd annual, and so we're looking forward to it as well. But after that, it's Easter and we have an adapted Easter egg hunt, right? Not a lot of facilities offer an adapted Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
If your kid is has complex medical needs, you can't really go to a traditional Easter egg hunt. So we've thought about that and are providing those services specifically for children with disabilities who come on to our Miracle Stadium, whether in a walker or wheelchair, and can still participate in the fun of an Easter egg hunt. So get on our website, BethanyChildren's.org, go to our events page, or go to our Ways to Give page, and you'll be able to learn how to support us.
Yeah. Rich, has been an absolute pleasure. I love sitting across the table from people who have a true passion for what they do. Fortunately, I get to do it a lot, so it fills my cup. But I love your story, and I love that you found a home. And like you said, things have happened at the right time for you, and this is clearly a place that you were meant to be at. Growing up in Ghana, you probably never thought you'd end up in Bethany, Oklahoma, but doing this job. But, the world has a way of working itself out and putting us in places that, places and industries and things that we have the most impact in, and you're in that spot. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the podcast, sharing your story. And I look forward to sitting across the table from you again and sharing some of those amazing fries.
No, man, thank you for being here. You're part of the Bethany Children's story now, and you get it, and that's what we want, is people to really see what we're doing and the mission that we have. So thanks for really being part of our story and sharing it as well. So
for people listening, I'll put all the links that Richard mentioned down in the description. Go check it out, come to the community events, and you need to see this place to really experience all the great things that Bethany Children's is doing. And also you will see this giant caterpillar at some point in the future on Route 66 coming in the future. So thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. Turn your dream home into a reality with Home Creations, a family-owned and operated builder with over 40 years of trusted experience right here in Oklahoma. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to schedule a showing or visit our website for more details. Home Creations, building homes, shaping futures, strengthening communities.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.